Wilson.
And all of us know people who are better because they navigated a hard season and grew through it. But we also know people who went through the same trial and became so bitter.
You got to make this really, really hard choice to either cling to Jesus or run away from him. Because we sort of blame God for the trial, but if we will turn to him and cling to him, he uses that to make us better, not bitter.
James says, "Consider it all joy, my brothers and sisters, when you encounter various trials, knowing the testing of your faith
produces perseverance." It's not what you're feeling in the moment, but what we know is God is close and he's developing us into better people.
Get more at familylife.com/real.
Tracking each step in missions. This is Footsteps from TWR. With today's discussion, here's Andy Napier.
Through the centuries, believers in Jesus have suffered for their faith. In fact, Jesus told us in Matthew 5:11, "Blessed are you when others revile you and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you falsely on my account." Well, in order to strengthen and encourage our fellow believers who are right now struggling with persecution, TWR has developed a radio program called Power in Persecution. Here's TWR's Nathan Anderson to tell us about it.
Yeah, Power in Persecution was a program that was developed by one of our leaders in Europe. He basically was able to interview different people from all around the world, from South America, Asia, Africa, Europe, the Middle East, different people from all around the world, from different backgrounds, but who experienced challenges to their faith when they came to Christ. And there's 40 programs. Now we've been translating these. It's been done in Arabic, it's been done in Central Asian, Russian, some other languages. We're now in the process of doing this for the Kurdish Kurmanji as well as for the Kabyle of North Africa. And so we're translating those testimonies of people just sharing what it's like to be a believer in an environment where they are oppressed for their faith, where they are persecuted for their faith, and yet they're holding to the Word of God and growing in their faith.
You can learn more about the radio program Power in Persecution when you go to twr.org/footsteps.
Footsteps is a production of TWR.
Serving Portage, Summit and Medina counties, and more. This is Moody Radio Cleveland. From the Word to Life. WCRF Cleveland. WVMS Sandusky. WVML Millersburg. WVMN Newcastle. WVME Meadville. WVMU Ashtabula. Or stream us anywhere with the Moody Radio app, other streaming services, and at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
The Syrian government has collapsed after rebels seized control of Damascus. It's 6 o'clock. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. Russia's foreign ministry said President Bashar al-Assad had resigned and left the country. Opposition forces declared victory in a statement read on Syrian state television, saying that the country was liberated from the rule of dictator Bashar al-Assad. Ashtabula area city schools will keep all schools in the district closed through at least today. Lakeside High School students will be on remote learning from December 9th through December 17th. That comes after a partial roof collapse at the building after several feet of snow accumulated. And more than 60 local firefighters were called overnight to the scene of a large fire on Cleveland's west side. The blaze ignited earlier this morning and spread across multiple buildings near West 48th and Lorraine. Witnesses report hearing a number of explosions, though the cause of the fire has not yet been reported. I'll be right back with sports and weather.
Whether you're investing, saving, paying off debt, going to college, or buying a new car, God's wisdom can guide our decisions as we're seeking to live as faithful stewards to advance His kingdom. Hi, I'm Rob West, host of Faith and Finance Live. Listen each day as I take your calls at 800-525-7000 on any financial topic. It's Faith and Finance Live on Moody Radio, weekdays at 4 p.m., where our faith defines our financial decisions.
In sports, the Steelers took down the Browns 27-14. The Cavs fell to the Heat 122-113. The Blue Jackets grounded the Jets 4-1. And number 3 Penn State lost to top-ranked Oregon 45-37 in the Big Ten championship game on Saturday. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Rain this morning, then a chance of rain with patchy drizzle this afternoon. It's going to be much warmer than we've seen of late, highs in the lower 50s. And currently we've got rain all across our listening area. 48 degrees in Cleveland, 47 Akron and Canton, 43 degrees in Youngstown.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
Well, it's the time of year where shipping gifts becomes top of mind. You can ship smarter this year. Visit the website onlineshippingcalculator.com, which compares rates for all available carriers, including UPS, FedEx, and DHL, so you know the best price as you prepare to ship. They include current discount codes too. Score. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 6:03 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
Broadcasting live from the Bob Devine Studio, it's Mornings with Brian. Want to join the conversation? Call or text now at 440-546-2255.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
back tomorrow. Daria's back.
Good morning. Hi.
Oh, my goodness. We missed you a whole week. Woo.
I missed you guys too.
No.
Don't lie on Christian radio.
No, I didn't think about you at all.
I thought
Probably more accurate.
I thought there would have been like some weeping, Jimmy, just give me a minute. I need a break here. I'm not with the guys.
No. Jimmy actually did. He told a couple jokes and he said, "What would Brian think of that?" I said, "I don't care."
Which means Brian would like it. That's what that
Probably.
means. That's what that means. To the extent you're willing to share, did you have a good break?
Yeah. So I had my birthday over my little break. Jimmy.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
Jimmy got me a cruise. It was kind of my birthday, our Christmas. So we went to the Bahamas. We had a really great time. It was relaxing. I sat on a beach on my birthday, and then we went out and we had steak. It was great.
Wow.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
How many was this? Like a 3-night, 5-day? Is that what this was, or a 7-day?
It was 7 days. So we got in last night.
You are so
and you're
spoiled. Well, she better be rested.
I'm not, because I didn't get to bed till 10:30. But
Daria.
Right. It's the week of rest on the beach and all that, but then that last couple days of packing back up, getting everything here. And
yeah. What was extra nice about this was, so we actually, there's a port in Baltimore, so we didn't have to go to Florida, so we just drove the 6 hours, and Jimmy's family lives in South Jersey, which is only 3 hours away.
Oh.
So they dropped us off at the port, and then they picked us up, and we had lunch with them, which was very nice. We had our...
wonderful.
We don't get to see them very often. We had our mini Christmas there. We all packed up the presents. It was fun.
Oh, nice.
I like that Baltimore's a port of call now. Is that a new thing?
I'm not sure. I would say we had a great time. I would not recommend going out of Baltimore in the winter, because there were several days where it was just too cold to lay on the deck, but I bundled up and I sat out there and I said I don't care, but it was cold.
Right.
Oh, I see. Good point. Yeah. But I like the idea nonetheless. There you go. And now the biggest deal was I was so disappointed we could not celebrate you finally becoming an adult.
I am an adult, officially.
You did it.
I did it.
27?
27.
Wow.
So I hosted Thanksgiving, which was the week before my birthday, and my grandpa says, "You gonna be 24?" And I said, "No, Grandpa, I'm gonna be 27." And he just made this most shocked, horrified face. Like, thanks, Grandpa.
Now, was it he was shocked and horrified that he could possibly have a 27-year-old granddaughter, or that you're that old?
I'd probably both.
Yeah. I think I would probably fall off my chair for a minute if I had a grandchild at 27.
About 3 months ago, my mom said, "I can't believe you're about to be 27." I said, "Well, thank you. Everyone's making me feel ancient. I'm not even 30 yet."
Well, did you make it clear that you're now officially for those who don't know, psychologically, it's come out now recently that actually they bumped it up now. 27 is an
It's not
adult.
Psychologically. according to Gen Z, of which I am a member, you're not an adult till you're 27 because you're unable to pay your own bills until then.
Well, psychological issues perhaps is what's
Yes, there we go.
causing that. But you did it. I don't know. I mean, do you
did
feel
it.
different? Do you feel like, oh, I'm so responsible now?
I actually do feel old. Like 25 was like fun, and now it's like, okay, 30s creeping up there, and I know that that look you're giving me, you're like, great, I'm in my mid-40s, but it feels weird.
I remember 30 being exceptionally weird.
Jimmy turned 30. He's now 31, and he had a hard time for his 30th birthday. I threw a party, and I had to force him to get up and join us.
But see, okay, I remember 30 feeling weird, but then you just kind of go, well, this isn't so bad. I'm still in my 30s. Like, people in their 30s are still kind of like young and hip. They're cool,
Yeah, they try.
Once you hit 40, it's like, oh, are you okay? Should we call a nursing home now? Or I mean, if I do any sort of heavy work around the property, I need at least a day to recover now. In my 30s, that was not the case.
That's probably true, yeah.
Yeah, and I make noise standing up.
Yeah, I've done that for a long time. To the point where my youngest granddaughter, I would pick her up and I would grunt a little bit. So then she started grunting with me.
She did?
Yes. She just thought that was what we do.
Oh, I love that.
Oh, wow. Is Jimmy doing that yet? Is he making little noises when he stands up or bends over?
He does. He started mumbling to himself. I'm like,
oh, good.
Honey, you were too young to be this old.
Yeah, well, I mean, look out.
Yeah.
But wow, Daria, I don't know what we're going to do now that we have 4 adults on the show.
It's
Whoa.
a game changer.
It's a total game changer.
Stay tuned. Know what you're in for.
Now, Friday we had a rewind as we had Rebecca St. James. Christmas with Rebecca St. James was Thursday night. Yeah.
Yes, we got ready to have a good Chrissy.
We did. And Ron had the courage to say that to her while I did not. No one is surprised by this revelation. How did she respond again?
She took it in stride, I don't think she did anything.
She didn't flinch or anything.
No.
But they were raving about Cleveland. They love Northeast Ohio. I don't know about that part. They loved the event. I'm sure it was a horrible day to show up. Daria, you probably don't know this, but it was a terrible snowstorm that morning.
Oh, I missed it.
When their bus arrived. And so it was pretty intense. But most everybody made it to the show. And
yeah, I talked to some folks who came from Greenville, Pennsylvania, which is out by our Newcastle station, and folks who came from Vermilion, which is halfway to Sandusky. So they both drove all the way in. I came up from Medina, and we're secondary snowbelt at best, and it was, I was going to say treacherous. Maybe that's a little overstatement, but yeah, you drive slow, and you'd rather get there late than be in the ditch. So,
well, our drive home was the most treacherous. Honestly,
Oh, yeah.
It took us a long time. I had three of the kids with me. Took my wife's Subaru, praise the Lord, because it has all-wheel drive. But if anyone's familiar with the Garrettsville area, there's Nelson Circle. Is this? It's kind of like the Talmadge Circle, except 100% safer than the Talmadge Circle. They had it was very dangerous going down this giant hill past the circle. It had been closed for part of the day because some semi did something. I don't know what happened. Hard time to get to my house. I had to take side roads.
Oh no!
For an extended period just to get to my house, none of which had been plowed yet. To the point that school was canceled the next day because they still hadn't cleared the side roads.
Wow!
So my kids had 2 days off of school already.
Amazing. Did they have some online work they had to do, or it was complete vacation?
No, a bunch of babies just sat around and did nothing.
It's not how it used to be with snow days. You didn't have these blizzard bags.
Oh, I'm sorry. We didn't have snow days in the olden days, Daria. It would take a snowpocalypse for us to be home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we did have some snow days, I remember, but
not
like
many.
the blizzard of 78 where it was 4 feet deep or something.
The minute you call it by a year, like the blizzard of 78, then you go, oh, okay, I understand why you missed school. No one's going to call this the blizzard of 24.
No.
Because it wasn't a blizzard.
No, that year, the Hinckley Township hired my dad to bring a bulldozer out and help plow their roads. It was that bad.
I bet that was fun for your dad.
Oh, I bet it was.
Hard not to tear up the street, though.
Yeah.
With the giant bulldozer.
Yeah, you can't drop the blade too low.
I got to finally use my little tractor to plow the driveway.
After how many years have you had that?
This is the third year, I think.
Look at
So
you.
it came in handy. Had you not had it, then you would have needed it the first year.
This is true. But the way Northeast Ohio works, I'm kind of mad that it's warm now. All that wonderful plowing work I did is just melted.
Yeah, just tiny little strips along the side of your driveway.
That's it. That's all there is. Now, we had the rewind on Friday because, of course, we were out so late. It took so long to get home. I mean, goodness sakes, I didn't get to bed till super late on Thursday. But one of the embarrassing things is tied to that. We got home, and I just didn't even think through all my alarms and all that before I got all the alarms. And so Pastor Scott Lessing, I don't know if Ron heard this, Pastor Scott Lessing got up for his little teaching in the midst of the Rebecca St. James event.
Yeah.
He was fabulous. Thank you, Pastor Scott Lessing.
Yes, he was.
Thank you, Grace Church, Middleburg Heights. And he's going, and an alarm went off on my phone.
Oh, no.
In the front row. It was my night alarm. I have an alarm that reminds me, Brian, it's time for you to start thinking about going to bed now because you don't want to be up too late. And I forgot to turn it off.
You and your alarms.
Did you hear it?
No, I didn't.
Oh,
but I was
so embarrassed.
Almost the other side from you.
Yeah, that's I
mean, then that means nothing.
Okay, I was right center and back about 5 rows.
I think you were just too captivated.
Left front.
You were captivated. That's what it was. Everyone around me heard it. my family was ashamed of me. Maureen Lessing laughed at me that I disturbed her husband's message. So embarrassed. Of course it was me that did that.
It would be you.
Boy. But anyway, we had a great time. Thanks to everybody who braved the weather and made it out with us. We had such a wonderful time. And I tell you what, we are excited for whatever the Lord will bring next year for Christmas time. But hopefully it's a tradition that we have a Christmas show.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're hoping for.
I think we were blessed because Brittany, the gal from Chicago who heads up events, it was her first year, but Lauren had done that job previously.
Yeah.
So anything that might have slipped through the cracks from Brittany, Lauren was right there to catch every one of those things, and nothing fell to the ground. Every base was covered, and it was great.
And that's the blessing and the curse of being Lauren, where she thinks so quickly and knows so well how to do events.
Mm-hmm.
That she ends up doing more than she probably should because she sees everything before everyone else does. So she actually did a ton of work, and we are all very grateful for her. We'll thank her to her face tomorrow. We're not just doing it while she's not here. But nonetheless, we're grateful. All right, plenty to talk about today, including we have as we promised, Ashertah Cuicui has a wonderful Advent devotional. We'll be going through that a little bit later this morning. But coming up in a few minutes, we can't avoid talking about one of the bigger national news stories, and it's the odd Hollywood-esque assassination of a healthcare executive and social media aftermath. We'll discuss that as a team and with you coming up.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Today, there is a disciple-making church-planting movement that's taken root in 40 countries around the world. It's called the Timothy Initiative, and its mission is to see a healthy church planted in every village, everywhere. Since 2007, over 200,000 churches have been planted through the work of the Timothy Initiative, but there's more work to be done. Take your place in the Timothy Initiative. Go to ttiglobal.org.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland.
It's the most wonderful time of the year, with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling you be of good cheer. It's the most wonderful time. Mornings with Brian, Moody Radio Cleveland, 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
That's Barlow Girl on WCRF. If you want more Christmas music all the time, just go text the word Christmas to 440-546-2255. Text Christmas to 440-546-2255. And we here at WCRF Mornings with Brian will send you a link to Music of Christmas. It's Moody Radio's streaming station. So it's Christ-focused Christmas music all the time. So it's as if a Hollywood film unfolded in front of the entire world, particularly our country, almost like a Jason Bourne type thing. Now, I don't want to minimize the murder of a human being.
Right.
But it's a wild story.
Okay.
So please understand, it's tragic whenever there's loss of life. And we're going to deal with that more specifically in a few minutes. But for those who aren't aware, I'm going to give you the very basics because we're not like an investigative type program, okay? So a couple of days ago, Midtown Manhattan, fancy hotel, a guy wearing, according to security footage, a dark hoodie, a dark hooded jacket, a gray backpack, and a mask, like a COVID mask.
Right. Light blue.
Which is not that weird anymore to be wearing a mask like that.
No, not especially in cold and flu season like we are in.
So this guy is spotted, and he arrived outside the hotel where United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was staying, and they had a bunch of meetings for the business. And he ignored passersby, this shooter, and laid in wait.
And in New York City, that's the norm, to ignore all people around you.
That's right. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. It's not like he was being unfriendly. He was just being normal for them.
And Midtown Manhattan this time of year is one of the busiest places on earth. And I'm not being melodramatic. It's literally one of the most busy places on earth because it's one of the most busy cities and most populous cities in the world.
Very popular for Christmas.
Oh, yeah. And so Mr. Thompson, he is wearing a blue suit. He walks towards the hotel entrance, which apparently the shooter knew which door he was going to use somehow. The shooter approached him from behind and fired at least 3 shots with a pistol that had a silencer on it.
Wow.
Yes, this is why I'm saying it's like Hollywood Jason Bourne-esque.
Yeah, because I've never seen a silencer in real life, just on TV shows and movies.
So the CEO, Brian Thompson, took several steps, turned to face his assailant, collapsed on the sidewalk. With his victim crumpled up against a wall, the shooter walked up to him slowly, pointed the gun at him, looks like he maybe said some things, and then walked away. You know, you see the movies and you go, why is that guy running all of a sudden in a crowded city street? Well, this guy thought the same thing. He walked. He only began to run as he was crossing the street, okay? And clearly in a planned fashion, he got on a bicycle, rode through I think, Central Park, took a taxi, and then probably took a bus out of the city. He arrived in Manhattan 10 days before the shooting and had and stayed at a hostel somewhere. And apparently the bus came in that he was on from Atlanta. And officials know all this because they've been able to trace him because it's one of the most surveilled cities in the world.
Right.
But almost the entire time he was wearing the mask. They only have one unobscured photo of him. One.
Wow.
And so he's somewhat, in his escape route and in the way he lived those 10 days, and there was like a check out and a check back in, a fake ID, all these things. He somehow knew how to avoid being seen and identified.
And knew exactly where this person was going to be and when.
Yes.
Very weird.
Now, to make it even more sinister and odd, of course, is the bullet casings.
Okay.
The bullet casings had words written on them.
Wow. Yeah, that is like a movie.
And now, how are they written on there? I don't know. I'm not a firearms expert. Was it a Sharpie? Were they engraved? I don't know any of that stuff. Ask somebody else. But the words on there, on the 3 casings found, were delay, deny, depose. Now, those could mean anything, but the internet has decided those are the words that recipients of a denial from a healthcare from their insurance company. Like the philosophy of insurance companies is delay and deny.
Okay. I get that. The depose was throwing me.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a different word, I guess, is the third word often used, but it's essentially an approach for a sinister approach that some believe healthcare companies use in order to not pay for people's procedures.
Right. If you wait long enough on a serious issue, person would die, and then case is closed.
Now, my wife mentioned to me in passing, this is anecdotal, that she saw an interview, like apparently the CEO's wife was talking about how generous the guy was, which I don't doubt he was generous in a lot of ways, but he was also fabulously wealthy in a lot of ways. The company had a market value of $560 billion. He received a total compensation package of $10.2 million, $1 million in base pay, augmented by like cash and stocks and all that business. He did increase the company's profits, but this company's been under investigation by the United States Senate because they've denied so many people care.
Okay. Thus boosting their profits.
Right, and he was one of a number of healthcare officials that dumped a bunch of stock shortly before the Justice Department announced they'd be investigating them.
Insider trading?
Well, I mean, officially, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's what it looks like.
And he, as the CEO of the company, would have known that information, that the Justice Department was coming after them.
Yeah, and he owned $20 million in United Healthcare stock, sold $15 million worth right before that was announced.
Okay.
So I don't know how generous he was individually, but you can see why the public would kind of go, "Oh, generous, huh?"
Yeah.
You're denying care for lots of people at such a rate that you're being investigated by the United States government. And it seems as if you had insider trading info and sold off most of your stock.
Right. You can be generous with a tiny percent of your blood money there.
Yeah, and so, but you can see how just these basic facts as I'm sharing it, Ron, I can feel you getting a little riled up.
Yeah.
And I don't blame you. But this is where the problem comes in for followers of Christ. This is what I want to talk about after we pause for prayer. He's becoming a folk hero, not the CEO, the shooter, who is still at large. One of the most surveilled cities in the world and one of the most advanced police departments in the world can't identify him, let alone find him. What's his name? Nobody knows. They cannot find him.
Masky McMaskface.
That's what they're going to have to call him. So we'll kind of chat about this folk hero status and how we as believers are supposed to process through something so complicated and sinister.
I'm Cindy Farini, and this is Pause for Prayer. Having been through the planning of a few Christmases, I know that if I desire to have a wonderful and memorable holiday, it won't happen by accident. It takes careful planning to have less stressful holidays and one that is meaningful. One way I purpose to have a less stress Christmas is to decide what my overall purpose is in celebrating the holidays. What is your overall purpose? Is it to extend hospitality, send greetings, exchange gifts, celebrate the birth of Jesus, or to decorate? Well, maybe you feel it's all of those things. But if you choose one main purpose in planning the holidays, it may give you the direction you need to make the holidays special and not overly stressful. Let's pause for prayer. Lord, if we desire to make you the main focus and the one over all the planning and purposes in our Christmas and holidays, it will be in keeping that one purpose in the forefront of our mind to make our holidays less stressful. In each thing we plan, may we center on you so that our desires are met and you are glorified and honored as it is your day. We thank you for sending your Son Jesus Christ as a babe to this earth. We desire to make Christmas more meaningful this year by centering our attention on your birth. While we may be enjoying gifts and writing cards to send or share electronically, and as we are enjoying family times together, please let us be mindful that you are the reason for this season. Help us to find ways to share you with others in word and deed this year and in every year to come. Help us to also be mindful that many groups of people are thought about at this time of year, like nursing homes, the less fortunate, those in challenging situations. But help us to remember them throughout the year. Show us ways to consider others that you want us to reach. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Moody Radio is thankful for listeners and support from businesses like Duma Meats and Farm Market. Duma Meats and Farm Market supporting Moody Radio in Cleveland and surrounding areas. More information about Duma Meats and Farm Market is at dumameats.com.
Moody Radio? There's an app for that.
I had all these apps on my phone that were honestly just wasting and filling my time. That Moody Radio app is the best use of my phone and my time. It's like they say, it helps me take that next step with Jesus.
Get the Moody Radio app. Keep it on your home screen. And when you feel like just filling time, instead choose the app and let God fill your heart. Download it now at moodyradio.org.
It helps me take that next step with Jesus.
Helping you take the next step in your walk with Jesus. It's Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio, Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
WCRF, that's Casting Crowns. It's a wild story, almost as if it's out of a script from Hollywood. But how should Christians process the assassination of a healthcare executive? We'll get to that in a second here, but got to save the date for you.
Okay.
Ron's already married, so it's not for that. Although he had a lot of women yelling, "I love you."
There were a few.
On Friday.
I prepped Dana ahead of time. I said, now, Brian's been really pushing for this, so watch out.
I'm surprised Dana didn't slap me or something. But March 1st, okay? March 1st, this coming March 2025, Walk Worthy Men's Conference.
Wow, already got that in place.
Oh, yeah, March 1st. Now, we got speaker info coming soon, ticket sales coming soon. But please save the date, guys, gals. Put it on the calendar, block that it's a Saturday. And it's going to be fantastic.
Yes, and our special musical guest will be you.
What?
Yeah, aren't you leading worship this year?
I didn't hear that. Why is Daria laughing so quickly?
Got him.
Yeah, as Lauren said, got him. No, I don't. I hope for the men's sake I'm not leading worship.
Yes, it would be interesting. You and I could be up there.
Oh boy, we
could
do a
sing
duet.
the wrong song. Like you pick a melody and it's just not right, and you put your own words to it.
No, I actually have I think I know who the worship team is, and they're incredible. Incredible. So, again, save the date, March 1st, Walk Worthy Men's Conference. Guys, can't wait to see you there and give you more details in the days ahead. So, it's a wild story. If you're just tuning in, we went over a fair amount of the details, but essentially, United Healthcare, which is a Minneapolis-based health insurance company, reporting record profits. Looks like maybe have some insider trading being investigated by the Senate. Somebody in Midtown Manhattan, in seeming a premeditated way, with a silencer and with messages engraved on bullets, assassinated the head, the CEO of that company. And the authorities can't catch him. New York City Police Department don't know who he is still, like 4 or 5 days later. And they have no hope of catching him since they can't even identify him. The wild part is the guy's becoming a folk hero, the shooter. So here's the basics. A grainy image, according to the New York Times, of his face drew comparisons to Hollywood heartthrobs. A jacket similar to one he's wearing on wanted posters is reportedly flying off the shelves. And the words written on the bullets he used to kill the man in cold blood on a sidewalk on Wednesday have become, for some people, a rallying cry. In some circles of the internet and social media, he's becoming a folk hero. The hostel he was staying at on the Upper West Side is getting a deluge of bad reviews and is being called narcs for helping the New York City Police Department try to identify the shooter.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
So these are a wave of murder enthusiasts, apparently.
Well, we've known about this, and serial killer specials have been trending on Netflix for a number of years. People calling famed serial killers attractive. We have an obsession in our society.
And yet I think something runs deeper here, as the internet's decided the motive was the guy must have been denied care in some way, or a loved one, or was hired by someone in that sense.
Right.
And there is as the New York Times wrote, a bunch of different sites are saying there's something deeper going on here in the American public. And it's a deep level resentment and anger towards health insurance.
Yes.
And there's some people who are kind of going, I mean, there's people making funny videos in their minds where it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was gonna care about your murder, but that request was denied. And they're making snarky comments.
Yeah, I was looking at news sources from both sides of the aisle, and general consensus in the comment section is, I don't care and good riddance. He kind of got what was coming to him as general public, which is unsettling.
Yeah, I mean, for clarity's sake, I mean, you don't have to think too long to think of how Christians should feel about the murder of a healthcare executive.
Right.
Any initial thoughts?
What's coming to him should be criminal investigation and possibly prison time, not 3 bullets in the back.
Right.
Generally, first of all, bullets in the back You are a yellow-bellied, lily-livered coward if you're going to do that. And the whole setup, the assassination, reeks of cowardice. You can't stand face-to-face with the man and say, look, here, you did this to my loved one. If that's the case, let's duke it out. Mano a mano. No, you're not a mano. You are a punk, a coward. You planned this assassination. You're skilled. I'll give him that. He's a skilled assassin, but he was totally wrong in what he did. And all the creepos on social media, Blue Sky or wherever you're at, if you're applauding this and you're saying good riddance, one down, how many more to go? You are a punk as well. Come on. There are ways. I agree. It is suspicious. I'm no fan of people becoming a CEO and becoming fabulously wealthy at it.
At the expense of others.
Yeah.
At the expense of the health of others. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are ways to go about that. There's a legal system in place. To take matters into your own hands and just murder someone in cold blood, it's just wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who it is. I think the loss of life should always sadden us because death is part of the fall, and we are not God. This man certainly was not any member of, the arm of the law. We can't take matters into our own hands. It doesn't matter what this person has done. I think this should sadden us, and I think the way the public has rallied around this assassin should really disturb us and give us. I think we should stop and pray for our nation that the public opinion has deteriorated to this point.
Now, for those who want a verse, I have a couple for you. Romans 12:19. Beloved, never avenge yourselves, but leave it to the wrath of God. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, says the Lord. Or to put two others together, Proverbs 24:17 and Romans 12:20. Here's how it would read. Do not rejoice when your enemy falls, and let not your heart be glad when he stumbles. To the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he's thirsty, give him something to drink. For by doing so, you will heap burning coals on his head. Like the idea, like we don't celebrate. Let's just say he's your enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you're mad about those kind of things. You're not supposed to kill him. I mean, hello, duh. The vengeance belongs to the Lord. So this is clearly something Christians should not celebrate, no question about it. But what do we make of the deeper issue here? Yeah, there's a bunch of sickos trying to capitalize on like social media cred or something, but I mean, there's a level at which you understand the public in this, right?
It is indicative of another issue, which is people should not be able to profit off of denying other people life-saving care.
Right.
That is a fundamental flaw in our system, and we can have debates about how to fix it, but I think we can all agree that there is a flaw, and people are latching on to this figure because they are frustrated, they're heartbroken, and they're sick.
Yeah, I mean, the guy found out they're going to be investigated somehow, sold 15 of his 20 million in stock before that was announced.
Mm-hmm.
Already makes millions every year. This is not praiseworthy behavior.
Not at all.
When health insurance costs are skyrocketing to the point that companies are laying off people because they can't bear the brunt of the cost anymore, you've got people who are being denied care that they deeply need, and they're paying gobs of money every month.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I have a solution to this, but it makes me wonder whether more churches need to jump on that bandwagon. You've heard about it, where churches decide to find out in their county or their city about medical debt.
Right.
And churches are paying off medical debt of people in their community, whether or not they're in the church.
Mm-hmm.
But at minimum within the church, I don't know that we're paying enough attention to it if this is the level of animosity that culture has. What do you make of that?
I love the idea when churches finance the debt of someone who's over their head, and medical debt can quickly grow to be that way. So I think that's a great way to reach out and to show your love to the community.
It doesn't even have to be like a catastrophic diagnosis like cancer. A single visit to the ER can financially wreck a family for years.
I mean, you have to know the secret code for whatever the visit was that you had to be sure it's covered. I mean, it is absolutely, just my personal opinion, the system itself is a total disaster zone that benefits companies, not people. I don't know how to fix it. I'm not advocating for any particular solution. Just that some sort of regulatory thing needs to come in here, and Congress needs to actually do something to fix the problem. There have been many periods in American history where Congress has to bring in new regulations to keep, the robber barons and just giant corporations from pulling the wool over people's eyes. But we have to hold our Congress people accountable, because right now it seems like all they care about is their own social media cred. And actually not compromising to get things done. But again, we certainly grieve with the family of the CEO. He did not deserve what he got.
No.
I don't deserve anything I have. What I deserve is hell.
Yep.
It's only through the grace of God and the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ that I have anything to look forward to. And that's the perspective we as Christians have to have. But I think it's a wake-up call for American society, and certainly for the church, to think about how can we speak into this pain point in people's lives when it comes to healthcare in a way that will make a difference for the kingdom.
So right now may be the perfect time for you to rethink how you pay for health care. And here's why. This time of year is decision time for a lot of people, but it's also when you can join MediShare and save even more than usual. For many families, joining MediShare means saving about $500 a month, which is a game changer for a lot of people, obviously. But what's more, MediShare members like it a lot. Their satisfaction rate is 98%. Imagine that. And MediShare is a proven thing, too, for over 30 years. It's a Christian community of hundreds of thousands of people now. And here's the thing. If you join before December 15th and you mention the promo code SHARE, they'll waive your application fee, so you save even more right off the bat. I'll give you the number here in a second, but just call and you'll get a price within 2 minutes. And again, the deadline is December 15th, so call now. You'll save even more. Here's the number: 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
Hi, I'm Charlie Dyer of The Land and the Book. In my artifact collection, I have a Herodian lamp that dates to the time of Christ. And it was Jesus who said, "You and I are the light of the world." In his new book, This Light of Mine, Joe Stoll helps us communicate the truth of the gospel without alienating those who most need to hear it. Think of it as our Christmas gift to you as you support Moody Radio. Here's how you can shine brightly.
Learn more at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
May God bless and keep you during the holiday and throughout the year. Merry Christmas from your friends at Mornings with Brian and Moody Radio, Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio, Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
For King and Country, WCRF Mornings with Brian, thanks to all who came out to the Rebecca St. James concert last week. We had a wonderful time.
Nice tie there, too. For King and Country, the Smallbone brothers, their older sister, Rebecca Jean Smallbone, is known as Rebecca St. James.
Yeah, and she told some great stories tied to that, tied to their upbringing and such. And her husband, who she called a holy hunk.
Yes, I was jealous. I'd love to be called that.
I thought it was just Daria that said that about her husband. But no, it's her. And
rat me out on air.
Right? But he was the bass player.
Yep.
Oh, very cool.
He was really good, too.
Very
actually.
musical family. It's very cool how everyone just kind of went into that.
Now, Ron and I are not allowed to call our spouses smoking hot, according to you and Lauren. Can we call them holy? Can you call your husband holy hunk?
Hottie?
I wouldn't, but Rebecca St. James can do whatever she wants because I'm not here to stop her.
That's true. But hey, as I guess a punctuation mark on our previous discussion about medical debt and that strange situation out of New York with an assassination, according to a recent study by the Commonwealth Fund, 25% or 1/4 of Americans with health insurance are struggling to pay medical costs. A quarter of Americans with health insurance are struggling to pay the costs. Now, roughly 57% of those say costs prompted them to forego needed care. Almost 60%. 44% have medical debt of people that are already insured.
Yeah.
The survey reveals about 66% of underinsured Americans had employer-provided health insurance. Think it's a problem? One out of 3 with chronic conditions say they can't afford to fill needed prescriptions. It's like, why do you have insurance then?
Excellent question.
I am so blessed that I've got type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure that I'm treating with medicine on a daily basis. And that is free. It blows my mind when I go to the pharmacy and they go, hand me 3 bags or whatever and go, okay, no charge today. And, I'm thankful for that, but I'm just, curious about how other people who, whether it's my insurance through UPS is so good or insurance companies just figure with these particular problems, it's better to pay for the medicine to keep things under control than to let it get out of hand. But man.
Yeah, there's some calculus. We have a fair number of medications in my family, and we're also grateful that most of them are covered. But we're also paying a lot of money a year for health insurance. So it better be that cost. And there's people that just are struggling with their health in general, that their particular disorder or medication is just unaffordable or not covered.
Yeah, and it's a shame when you have that dilemma and you decide, well, I've got to pay my mortgage, I've got to pay for food. Do I have to pay for medicine? Can I pay for medicine?
And when you have insurance, to me, that's an outrageous thing to be faced with.
Yeah.
If you don't have insurance, I get it. But if you have health insurance, goodness gracious, that shouldn't be what we're doing, especially at the cost most people are paying.
Yeah. And that, as we talk that way, it kind of throws shade on bosses, on, the owners of companies and stuff. And maybe there should be shade on some of these big companies where the guy walks off with $10 million a year or whatever. But there's a lot of companies that are small employers, 50 or less employees, and they have to wrestle with how much can I afford to pay wages and insurance per employee versus the profit that we make to bother keeping this company alive.
Right.
And, it's tough on them too. We can't just say, well, yeah, you're walking away rich. Not all of them are. Small businesses struggle day to day.
Well, and even larger businesses are put in a tough position because they often are sharing a significant portion of the cost of healthcare for employees. And it's a huge number. Meanwhile, and this is where the frustration comes in, health insurance companies report every year record profits.
Mm-hmm.
And we all just kind of go, well, that seems right.
Yeah, that shouldn't be possible when the people that they're supposed to help are swimming in debt. There's a great scene from The Incredibles. Bob works at an insurance agency. He says, "Are you saying we're not supposed to help our people?" He says, "The law requires I say no."
Yeah, I forgot about that part of The Incredibles. But yeah, one of the things about Mr. Incredible is he really rescued a lot of people. He rescued one old lady from a terrible insurance company.
And a couple other people, which was he got fired because he threw his boss through a wall, but the lead up was he was helping people and his boss didn't want him to.
I love it. Well, we can't solve this problem on the show, but we can certainly have it be something that followers of Christ pray for. And I really think it's going to have to be an issue that churches themselves consider as part of a benevolence fund. Like maybe we have to increase our benevolence funds and be open about helping people in our communities and our churches that have medical debt. Most people are not doing anything on purpose to have medical debt.
Right.
They're doing the very best they can. And then pray that somehow we can solve this problem nationally.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big deal. All right, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to get to Ron's news and today's Moron Moment, and we have much more to come.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
President-elect Donald Trump is warning that children born in the U.S. could be deported if their parents are in the country illegally. It's 7:01. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. In an interview with NBC's Meet the Press, Trump said he doesn't want to break up families, and so children may have to leave alongside their undocumented parents once he takes office. Trump also reaffirmed his commitment to ending birthright citizenship. Preparations are underway for the final implosion of the Avon Lake Power Plant. The Avon Lake Environmental Redevelopment Group reports a controlled, short-duration implosion will bring down 5 structures sometime between December 16th and 20th. And Wreaths Across America is hosting a remembrance ceremony at the Ohio State House today. Volunteers will be helping the organization to place wreaths on the graves of 4 million service members at thousands of cemeteries across the country this week. Sports and weather coming right up.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Jobe, president of the Moody Bible Institute. I've also been a pastor for decades. On Bold Steps, my goal is to lead you on a path of authenticity in your walk with God. I desire to do that with Bible teaching that is clear, practical, and pushes people to take bold steps in their relationship with Christ. You can hear Bold Steps weekdays at noon and Sunday evenings at 7 here on Moody Radio Cleveland.
In sports, the Steelers took down the Browns 27-14. The Cavaliers fell to the Heat 122-113. The Blue Jackets grounded the Jets 4-1, and number 3 Penn State lost to top-ranked Oregon 45-37 in the Big Ten championship game Saturday. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Rain this morning, then a slight chance of rain with patchy drizzle this afternoon. High temperatures much warmer in the lower 50s. And at last check, we did have light rain across the listening area. It's 49 degrees in Cleveland, Akron and Canton 48, Ashtabula 42 degrees.
It's time for your Moron Moment.
Well, it is that time of year when shipping gifts becomes top of mind. You can ship smarter this year. Visit the website onlineshippingcalculator.com, which compares rates for all available carriers, including UPS, FedEx, and DHL, so you know the best price before you go to ship. They include current discount codes, too. Score. And that's your Moron Moment.
Moron.
And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 7:04. With Moody Radio News, I'm Ron Eastwood.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Tori Kelly on WCRF, or as I like to call her, the elephant from Sing.
Yeah.
She's the best. Hey, good morning. We're back. We're excited to be back. Daria's back. We're going to talk about a whole bunch of secrets and lying happening here in just a couple of minutes. But first, late happy birthday, Daria.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm an adult now.
Yeah,
officially.
27. You did it.
I made it.
And Jimmy did a great job celebrating, making us all look bad by taking you on a cruise.
Right.
So thanks, Jimmy.
You're already one cruise ahead of Dana and I.
You should go. We had a great time.
I should say Dana's been on cruises, so
Okay.
one ahead of me.
Yeah. Jimmy's very thoughtful.
He really is thoughtful. He's a holy hunk, as Rebecca St. James would call him. And that was a funny little comment from her. I hope you enjoyed the concert. We sure did.
Yeah.
Thank you to all of you who came out. What an evening. She had some wonderful testimony to share. Pastor Scott Lessing was fabulous.
Mm-hmm.
We gave away a signed guitar.
Yeah.
Ron had a sparkly sweater on.
Yeah, people like it.
I had a Buddy the Elf shirt on.
Which was nice.
Yeah, I thought it was classy. You know.
And as you predicted, Lauren wore her NSYNC Christmas shirt.
She did. But both her and I did the T-shirt with a blazer bit.
Yeah.
You put the blazer on to go, look how fancy I am, even though I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It's Christmas. It's just fun.
Right. Okay, so secrets and lying. I've got some statistics that are pretty wild. Before we get there, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but do you know that there are many types of infidelity? Does this surprise you?
I can understand breaking it down. I mean, to me, I'm like, well, it's all infidelity. But if you want to get technical, there could be a lot of different ways it comes around or comes to pass.
AI through Google says there's 7.
Okay.
I was a little shocked by that. I would break it down to 3. There's physical infidelity, emotional infidelity, and financial infidelity.
Okay.
They would add things like, cyber infidelity, where it's a sexual relationship via whatever, cyber. They also call micro cheating something.
Like really small?
Small, seemingly insignificant behaviors that suggest interest or engagement with someone outside of the relationship, such as flirting or keeping in touch with an ex. And then there's object infidelity. And I was like, eh? An obsession or interest outside of the relationship, such as being more focused on work or a phone.
Okay.
I think those take it a bit too far out of the big 3.
Yeah.
Not that they aren't significant. I'm not trying to minimize anyone's experience here, but the more you research into this, emotional infidelity can be equally as devastating as physical infidelity. And financial infidelity, many people would say, is absolutely devastating because of its long-term impact, not just on your emotions, but your spouse or your significant other lying to you at length about spending or debt. Essentially is what that is. Now, need I remind anyone, lest I need to, Proverbs 6, I love this passage, 16, where it says there's 7 things the Lord hates. The first 2, haughty eyes and a lying tongue. Like God hates lies. We know he hates infidelity, but he hates lies. So you can't sneak around it by saying, well, I didn't mean financial infidelity. But the statistics are pretty wild. So check this out. And Daria is going to help us try to understand this because she's an adult now. Men are dramatically more likely to have financial secrets. According to Wallet Hub, it found nearly 80% more men than women have money secrets, be it large purchases, savings, debt, or job status.
Job status, like
whether they're employed.
Oh, so yes, I have heard that where somebody gets fired and or laid off is the terms they prefer to use today. They have no intention of bringing them back, but
or lying about salary and compensation.
Yeah,
people will lie about that as well.
But if you do get laid off, then you just keep getting up same time, getting dressed. You go to the library or something and do job searches, but you don't tell your wife, oh, by the way, I'm not employed anymore.
But men are nearly 80% more likely than women to have money secrets.
I wonder if that's because of the traditional role of the man as the provider, where he doesn't want to be looked at as lesser than. He doesn't want to worry his wife and his family, so he feels like he's doing them a service by not telling them.
I think that's probably a big part of it.
And I would think he's got to be the one in the family that does the finances.
Well, he has to be, right? Or otherwise you can't lie about it.
Yeah. After at the most, if you get a monthly paycheck, then, at the end of the month, that check doesn't come in, she's good to know something's up.
And now I'm anxious to hear Daria's off-the-cuff response to this, but we were laughing with Brittany and Lauren on the air last week about first dates. And Ron and I were shocked at the standard of both Lauren and Brittany.
Yeah.
Like, there are lots of, Applebee's? No. Olive Garden? No. Like, you have to go to and even Texas Roadhouse. They have steak there, but I don't know if it's nice enough. Like, for a guy to be able to take a gal out on a first date.
On a first date, yeah.
Not knowing if it's going to work or not. He's got to have a lot of money.
Yeah, I feel bad for them.
Is that true?
Nowadays, yes, the standards are very high, which is one of the reasons I think men are fleeing the dating pool. I don't understand it because I feel like the best first date is just coffee, something casual. There's not a high financial stake. You're just getting to know each other. For our first date, Jimmy said, because I refused to let him pay for the whole thing. I'm like, I didn't know him very well, and I'm like, I'm an independent woman. I don't need him to pay my whole way. So I said, I'll pay for dinner, and we went bowling, and he paid for bowling. So he tricked me, and we went to the school cafeteria. We were in college, and so dinner was free. And then we went bowling, and then I realized I'd been had, so I got mad at him, and I made him drive to get ice cream, and I bought ice cream.
Oh,
okay.
I would venture to guess that in your generation, you're an exception.
I possibly, based on what you see online, I if you're judging by that, I think so.
I remember our Kelly Ryder before she married Hank the Hunk. Or
I was just about to say the same thing, right?
I couldn't remember what we called him.
A lot of things, but we'll take that one. Sure, it's a new one.
She went on a number of first dates, and it seemed like she was always happy to be at a coffee shop or someplace where it was public. That was one of the criteria, and you could talk. And, for her, that was very important. It didn't have to be, let's go to a movie where we sit together for hours, but we don't say a thing. She wanted conversation to see if a second date would be even desired, or no, this guy's out right now.
Yeah, so I'm not happy that men are 80% more likely to lie about money.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's certainly reflective of the times. And I don't think women get off they can't totally get off on this, as in I think they bear some responsibility in that 80% number.
Yeah, I think when both spouses need to have an equal understanding and hand in the finances. It makes it harder to keep secrets. It makes it easier to plan and to budget. I think they both need to be involved. They should be gone the days where just the man handles everything, or even the woman. You both need to understand. But I think men and women are just disposed to different types of financial secrets. I feel like women are more likely to rack things up on the credit card, whereas men are more likely to fall into vices like drugs and alcohol that might cause financial stress.
Yeah, and I have a friend on Facebook who, for whatever reason, this is the thing for him. This not the lying financially, but the unfair standard, I guess is what he would probably call it, from some. He shared a bunch of videos I've seen where women are interviewed on the street, like a man on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, hey, you single? Yeah. How much would you want a man in your life to make? She's, at least six figures.
Yeah.
Maybe seven. Oh, and great. What's your job? Oh, I'm unemployed.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And it's like, excuse me.
The totally unrealistic double standards.
Yeah, it's crazy. But guys, we can't you can't blame women for this problem.
No. We're supposed to be the leaders of the family. I think finances fall under that as well.
There is no excuse for a follower of Christ to ever lie about money in any way.
No.
Now, not everyone's entitled to the entire truth. Now, if someone says to you, hey, what's your salary? You can say, none your business.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hope you don't say that to your wife, but...
Well, no, not your spouse. Yeah. But when it comes to a marriage, no, there needs to be 100% transparency.
Mm-hmm.
100%. But what's interesting, though, we were railing on men here, but there is a statistic I want to talk about here in just a minute, related to the amount that the general public lies about money in general.
Moody Radio is on the air thanks to the support of listeners and Hawkins Sales. They've been serving our region's electrical industry for over 40 years. More information about Hawkins Sales is at hawkinssales.com.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Truly a must-read, by life or by death. Andrew Montanaro shares the legacy of his family, John and Betty Stam, two missionaries united by their love for China and their unwavering faith. Kidnapped and martyred, their courage inspired the world, and their story still impacts Christianity today. Their prayer, "May God be glorified by life or by death," continues to echo. Order by life or by death from moodybooks.org.
Celebrating the birth of Jesus all year round. This is Moody Radio Cleveland and Mornings with Brian.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Jeremy Camp, WCRF. A whole bunch of you and us are liars, we're finding out, especially about money. Before we get there, though, mark your calendar. Walkworthy Men's Conference, Saturday, March 1st. Saturday, March 1st. So pull out your calendar, write it on maybe it's on the fridge or on your phone, whatever it is. March 1st, Walkworthy Men's Conference, block the day. Guys will give you information on who the speakers are and how to buy your tickets here soon. But for now, just mark the date. Again, Walkworthy Men's Conference, March 1st. Super excited. All right, so if you're just tuning in, we've been chatting about a new Wallet Hub survey that showed that men are 80% more likely than women to have financial secrets, which is really in the realm of financial infidelity. It can be a deeply troubling and betraying thing. And I mean, people put it on the same plane as emotional affairs, to have a financial affair, which is keeping a deep level secret about money from your spouse. Now, lest it's only men we rail on here, a quarter of people in general, check this, say they lie about money regularly. 1 in 4 aren't just lying about money. They're lying about it regularly. What?
I mean, it's no wonder the divorce rate is so high if that's the case. So one of the biggest conflicts a couple is going to have is about their finances.
Yeah. And so I think we have to dig to the deeper part of this. And in fact, I wasn't going to do it, but there was a text I thought that was kind of interesting, Daria, that you shared with me.
Yeah.
That you were surprised I wanted to talk about.
I was. It says, it would be interesting in the research how they qualified secrets. Is it going to McDonald's and buying an Egg McMuffin and not telling your wife, or is it spending $1,500 on some toy?
No, I think we can objectively say, like, if Jimmy came home after purchasing a $1,500 laptop or something and didn't tell you and hid it from you, you'd be very, very upset.
He'd be married to that laptop.
I like how you put that. But now, talk to me about the heart of a believer, that we won't pick on Jimmy, but just the heart of a believer who their spouse has been railing on them about their finances, and they're real hungry on the way to work, and they stop at McDonald's, get a breakfast, and hide that purchase from their spouse.
I would assume it's probably something you've talked about, you and your wife. And you're probably tight financially, where she says you need to stop, buying overpriced fast food all the time. We've got food here. I'm a smart, savvy shopper, so I get good tasting food that's as inexpensive as I can. And yet you continue to go out to buy the less healthy processed food options that cost more. It's bad for our finances. And yet he still goes out, drives by and gets a whiff of McDonald's or Burger King or whatever. He's like, I'm pulling in. So it's in the scenario where I paint it, it's kind of like he knows the agreement that they've made and succumbs to his greed and wants of his own flesh.
Yeah, and I mean, if you just even if you haven't had a discussion and you're hiding a small purchase from your spouse, isn't there a problem there? Isn't that a lie?
Yeah, I don't think you should buy something with, like, in the back of your mind, you're hoping that your spouse doesn't find out. But I also don't think it's necessary to, like, clear every single purchase unless you're in, like, you're flat broke, you're really struggling. Because, I go to the grocery store, I do most of the shopping. I'm not telling Jimmy everything I buy, I just put it in the pantry. Sometimes I might stop while I'm out. I may or may not tell him because it slips my mind and it's not relevant. But in the situation Ron's described, I think that could be a form of financial infidelity, especially if you've had that conversation, you're eating out too much, and it's a real drain on your finances.
Well, and the ministry of Jesus talks about how important our heart condition is. Like, murder isn't just actually killing someone, it's hating them in your heart and calling them a name. Adultery isn't just the physical act of adultery. Lusting after somebody in the eyes of the Lord is the same as adultery. And so to me, the idea of, intentionally hiding a purchase, no matter how small, from your spouse is lying. Now, I agree with you, Daria. Like, it's outrageous to say, I went shopping yesterday at Walmart for the family. I'm not implying, Sarah, let's sit down. We're going to go through the receipt just so you're clear on everything I bought. This is the Sarah and I are on a tight budget. And I was running people around like crazy on Saturday night, driving a ton, missed a meal. And I stopped and grabbed some Burger King because I like Burger King, original chicken sandwiches, as much as you and Lauren think that's gross.
I have never had one.
And it's cheap, relatively cheap. And I was busy. I couldn't go home to eat because I was already hangry. I still told her. I didn't hide it from her. I was like, hey, just so you know, I treated myself to some Burger King because I deserve it, and I've been driving all you people around all the time. She was like, okay, great. Now, in a perfect world, I wouldn't have spent that money, but I also wasn't hiding it from her.
Yeah.
Right.
To me, that heart condition of hiding a purchase, no matter how small from your spouse, is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I remember correctly, too, you've talked about, in general sense, some people who've been shocked by their fiance telling them about gobs of debt. Isn't that something you shared with me?
No, I think I shared off the air. I knew someone that they found out that their spouse had a very their boyfriend, something like that.
You don't have to share any of
Had a
that.
very materialistic mindset.
Gotcha.
So I think these are conversations that you need to have before you get married, because these problems where we are lying about purchases that we make, they don't come from nowhere. These are things that you have to know and problems that do already exist before you tie the knot.
And if you're a follower of Jesus, you're supposed to be conforming your life to him. You're supposed to be transforming, as Romans 12:2 indicates. You're supposed to be transforming your mind to be reflective of the character of Christ. And as God made blatantly clear in Proverbs, God hates a lying tongue.
Mm-hmm.
So don't fool yourself into thinking even hiding a small purchase from your spouse is somehow better than hiding a large purchase. Get your heart right. Work it through with your spouse, because financial infidelity can be devastating to a marriage relationship. It's 7:32 on WCRF.
Welcome to today's encouragement from Our Daily Bread. My name is Brent Hackett, and I've entitled today's devotion, Encouraged by God's Promises. It was a long day at the hospital, still no answers to the sickness that afflicted a young, bright 19-year-old. Arriving home, the family felt discouraged. To their surprise, a nicely decorated box sat on the step with Isaiah 43:2 printed on the front. Inside were assorted encouraging Bible verses that friends had written out by hand. The next hour was spent being encouraged by Scripture and the thoughtful gesture of the family's friends. People going through tough times or family challenges can always use a heartfelt boost. Scripture, either a large portion or just a verse, can encourage you, a friend, or family member. Isaiah 43 is filled with little bits of encouragement, received either individually or as a whole. Consider a few choice thoughts. God has created you, formed you, redeemed you, and called you by name. God will be with you. He's the Holy One of Israel, and He is our Savior. As you consider the promises of God, may they encourage you. And as He provides what you need, you can encourage someone else. The verse box didn't cost a lot, but its impact was priceless. Even after 5 years, some of those verse cards are still cherished by the family. Thanks for listening today. My name is Brent Hackett, and today's encouragement was provided by Our Daily Bread Ministries.
So right now may be the perfect time for you to rethink how you pay for health care. And here's why. This time of year is decision time for a lot of people, but it's also when you can join MediShare and save even more than usual. For many families, joining MediShare means saving about $500 a month, which is a game changer for a lot of people, obviously. But what's more, MediShare members like it a lot. Their satisfaction rate is 98%. Imagine that. And MediShare is a proven thing, too, for over 30 years. It's a Christian community of hundreds of thousands of people now. And here's the thing. If you join before December 15th and you mention the promo code SHARE, they'll waive your application fee, so you save even more right off the bat. I'll give you the number here in a second, but just call and you'll get a price within 2 minutes. And again, the deadline is December 15th. So call now. You'll save even more. Here's the number: 877-58-BIBLE. That's 877-58-BIBLE. 877-58-BIBLE.
May the spirit of Christmas be with you all year round. Merry Christmas from your friends at Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Thank you, Matthew West, for warming up for our next topic. Come home for good. We're going to talk about Boomerang Children here in just a couple of minutes, but we're so excited. Daria's back, the birthday girl. She's older.
Yay.
She's 27.
I'm an adult officially.
She's going to teach in a class now, I'm sure, at church on adulthood. Adulting, maybe you'd call it.
I actually do feel old. Like this is 26. I'm like, okay, I'm in my mid 20s officially, and this year it's like, make it stop. 30 feels way too close.
All of the number of milestones are gone. Until
all the
you
fun
hit,
ones.
Well, yeah, until you hit like 67 and you can afford, and then you qualify for Social Security.
Oh, don't worry. They'll change it by the time I get there.
Oh, I'm sure they will.
75 or something.
As long as it's for you and not for me, I could care less. That's America's attitude, right? We had the Rebecca St. James concert on Thursday night. So grateful to all of you that came out. What a blast that was. One of the little insider things I wanted to share was, so we had a a signed guitar we were giving away. And there was some sort of tech glitch. They didn't get the QR code up in time.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lauren was sitting next to me like we're used to after so many years of events. And she said, all right, Brian, when you go back up for intermission, you've got to bring up the guitar. You've got to talk about the guitar. I was like, no problem. Got it.
I've heard that before.
What do you assume happened?
You forgot. And Lauren was probably waving you down, making hand signals, which we now know you cannot interpret.
She actually didn't do that this time. Now, I forgot. I went up and I did whatever the spiel was we were supposed to do. I was introduced Scott Lessing or whatever it was, and I forgot to do that. So I literally afterwards, Lauren's like, you have to fix this. Sorry, you have to fix it. So I had to run up on stage when Pastor Scott was done and go to Rebecca St. James' husband, Cubby, the holy hunk. Hey, psst. He had to take out his ear monitor. He's like, yeah. I forgot to tell about the guitar. I need a minute. Because they had their whole plan on how to start.
Oh,
he was like,
Brian.
No problem, man. And so I went up and I did the thing. And then Lauren laughed at me because she handed me the names of the winners, or the winner and the backups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Written on an envelope. And of course, what did I do to be able to read it?
You lifted your glasses.
Yeah, I went, well, let me see here. And I lifted my glasses, and she busted out laughing during the concert. If you heard laughing, it was Lauren laughing at me. And that leads to the news that you missed, Daria. I did order from Zenny Optical because it's dirt cheap. It's Ron's favorite place because it's so cheap.
Yeah.
I ordered a pair of progressive lenses.
Wow. I'm so proud of you.
Are you?
I really am.
I'm depressed.
You should be proud of yourself.
No, I am not. And it's going to take a while to learn how to do this, Ron, I've heard.
Yeah. For me, it did, at least, where your peripheral vision downward is changing now because of the graduated lenses.
But it's in the I thought it was the entire bottom half. No, it's just the center of the bottom half is progressive, supposedly, right?
I don't remember.
Well, look down.
I'm sure they taught me. But
can't you look right now?
Well, now I've adapted to it.
So you don't even notice.
Right.
Okay.
But for a while, I was really like awkward on my feet where I felt I was because it looked different in my peripheral than what I was used to. And so kind of that feeling of you go to take a step and you're not sure if the ground is there or if it's, a few inches lower.
Oh, no.
You got that kind of...
So I'll be even more awkward.
Yeah, for a little while, but you get used to it.
But we're going to pretend that they're regular.
Oh, did you get no lines?
Yeah, I don't even know if you can get old ones
Then
anymore.
you can pretend all you want. No one will know. You don't have to wear a sign saying, I wear bifocals.
Yeah.
I know
unless
my friends.
Unless you want to.
I know my friends on the radio, and someone's going to bring it up. Okay?
Or if we do, it's going to be how proud we are of you for taking this step for your own health and our sanity.
I could picture on the live stream, I'll be like, I'll be moving my head differently now, trying to find out how to read through them.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at the scale. It's actually worse than I thought. Like, are you familiar with it's like a plus 1.25.
Okay.
That's not the minimal.
No.
No, it's not.
Look at how much you enjoy that. Stop enjoying it so much. It's difficult. Okay. Shifting gears back to Matthew West coming home for good. Boomerang kids. You all familiar with the phrase?
Yes.
The Wall Street Journal has an article about this advice for parents, but according to Thrivent's 2024 Boomerang Kids survey, 46% of parents have had their adult children ages 18 to 35 back home to live with them at some point. 46%. That's up from 35% last year.
Mm-hmm.
So if we round up, about half of Americans have boomerang kids.
I'm not surprised.
You're not?
No.
Why?
Because the economy is really rough. It's making it a lot harder for young adults to launch. Also, I think young adults have higher expectations than they should about what they can afford when they move out, so they might make some mistakes and then have to come back home.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we learn.
And Ron, you said off the air, and you've said on the air too, that you've had boomerang kids. You have 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
How many have boomeranged?
All 3 of them.
So that means after they had, in some measure, left home, came back to live home.
Yeah.
To the extent you're willing to share, is it a variety of circumstances like job losses or?
Yeah. Typically, they had an apartment or a place to live, and then like the lease was running out and they hadn't found another place, so they come for a month until they can find another. One came home. Well, it was my daughter. I was going to say one came home with a child, but it could be one of the boys, but less likely. Yeah. So she came home and stayed with us for a while, and it's expected. I think it's expected if they're going to college that they come home summers and breaks. So 18 to 22 roughly, you'd expect them to still be coming home. But there's a lot of difficult situations out there, and you want to see them successfully launch. And we joke about, I'm only obligated till you're 18 and then you're out of here, kid. But if your heart is bigger than the original Grinch, you're going to let your kids come home.
Yeah. And that's, Ron, where you seem to object in just general to the tenor of the article we're going to chat about here from the Wall Street Journal. It's essentially giving 3 tips to parents of adult children who boomerang, they come back, how they can help their kids while staying on track for retirement. Like help their kids without hurting their own financial goals.
Okay. It's probably good to keep your retirement goals in mind. It's not something that I've, had front of mind, oh, my kids are having problems. Or 20 years from now, I might want to retire. Well, sorry, kids, you're out on the street. No, it's the kids always take precedence to my future.
I don't know if everybody agrees with you on that. I love your heart.
Yeah.
Just the Wall Street Journal is assuming everyone doesn't agree with you on that.
Yes. You love my heart versus their lack of heart.
Well, let's go through here in just a minute. That there are 3 tips for how, when your boomerang kids come back, which is almost a coin toss for any parent this day and age, because 46% of adults have experienced this, 18 to 35-year-olds coming back home. How can you maintain your own financial goals while helping your kids? We'll look at the advice and see if Ron wants to rip it to shreds here in just a minute.
Hey, my name is Brant Hansen, and I have less than 30 seconds here to share something truly, profoundly awesome with you, and I'm going to. It's a website, cure.org/Moody. You'll see God at work, seriously. It's through Cure International Children's Hospitals where kids are healed and the kingdom is proclaimed so brilliantly. I tell people this is the most Jesus-shaped ministry I've ever seen. Check it out. So beautiful. Before and after videos of these kids healed in the name of Jesus. Just go to cure.org/Moody.
This holiday season, transform your family time with Today in the Word Family Studies. Teach your children the true meaning of Christmas with our December family study, Waiting for Jesus. Our fun-filled family devotional breaks down complex themes of the Bible and makes the Word of God accessible to your kids. To download this month's free family study, go to todayintheword.com/family. Spend time in God's Word together. Go to todayintheword.com/family.
We'd love to invite you to visit Moody's campus in the heart of downtown Chicago for Experience Moody, our campus visit day, on February 14th, March 28th, April 25th, or May 2nd. You'll experience life as a Moody student by attending class, meeting with students and advisors, and exploring our world-class city. We're excited to welcome you to learn more about whether Moody is right for you or your student. Register for Experience Moody at moody.edu/Experience Moody.
May your holidays sparkle with love, joy, and laughter. Merry Christmas from your friends at Mornings with Brian and Moody Radio Cleveland.
Boomerang kids are an issue for almost half of Americans now. Good morning. This is WCRF, Mornings with Brian. Daria's back, which we're very excited about. Lauren's out today, but she's back tomorrow. It's a big shuffle of the chairs, but I think we're all together then for a few weeks, maybe.
And then Christmas, and then we're all gone.
Yeah, but, well, yeah. Exactly. Okay, so boomerang kids, if you don't know, it's when your adult children ages 18 to 35 have left the nest but come back for a season because they need help.
Right.
Okay. Ron's not even sure he likes the idea of this Wall Street Journal piece where it's giving advice. It's got 3 steps, 3 tips on how to ensure that you're not going to mess up your own finances while helping your kids.
Mm-hmm.
You're suspicious.
Yes, I am.
You didn't even think for a minute about your own retirement goals as your kids needed help.
No, that's secondary to me.
Why?
Well,
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just very curious.
I think people planning retirement who are, really focused on it are thinking, well, constant vacations. I'll be cruising 13 weeks of the year. We'll be somewhere, drive around, look at all the state parks every year. We'll, all kinds of things like that are really irrelevant to me. I don't care if I ever go on a cruise. Well, I might like to go on one. I've been to a few state parks. I don't need to see them all. I can be happy just staying at home, eating mac and cheese and bologna sandwiches and stuff, just, but having a healthy family. If I instead say, no, I've got the dream of retirement where, we'll be on the hillside overlooking the sunset. We're each in our own bathtub and reaching over to touch hands. Forget all that stuff.
I like the bathtub angle.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And then you think about your kids and, well, they're living in poverty and my grandkids are in poverty because I decided I couldn't help them.
Yeah, I mean, we have to have a heart of generosity regardless. Mm-hmm. Well, let's see what you think, you and Daria, of the 3 steps they're saying at the Wall Street Journal for parents of Boomerang kids on how they can kind of stay on track financially while helping their kids. Mm-hmm. The first one is set clear boundaries. They're saying having a written document even or informal contract could be a good thing, but at the end of the day, it's ultimately have a timeline and set clear guidelines on how much financial support you can give and for how long. So here's the amount of money we're able to help you with, and you need to be an active financial contributor to our lives collectively while you live here.
Okay. I like the idea that you've talked about it. That it's not just, hey, come on back in and we'll get things straightened out. You need to find out what needs to be straightened and, set a plan to help them reach that goal. If it's a written document or just a verbal understanding, whatever. And the financial help, I'm talking about, they use more water, the heat in the house is on longer or something, washing machine dry, all of that, I assume. I'm not particularly involving, oh, well, you've racked up $20,000 in credit card debt over the last year because you wanted to live the high life. Now you come to me and I'm going to pay it off. No, I'm not going to do that.
But I'll give you a roof to sleep in under.
Right.
Now, in this case, they say you make it clear at the outset they're a financial contributor to the household, whether it's rent or groceries or whatever.
I'm not. Well, it's a good idea if you think they can do that.
Daria?
I do think you need to have that conversation where it's clear that they're not just going to sit on their butt and mooch off of you. Like you won't, I agree with Ron that your first thought should be helping your kids. But I do think you're fully within your right to expect that they're going to have a job and they're going to contribute to the extent that you decide is appropriate and that they are able to.
Would you be, let's just say you and Jimmy had to move home with your parents. Would you be offended if they sat you down and said, let's talk through how long you anticipate being here and how you're going to help contribute to the finances of the house?
Not at all. There was actually a season where we thought we might have to move it back in with them. When we were first moving back from Florida up here to Ohio, there were issues where we could not find a place to live. And they were preparing for us to stay with them for who knows how long. And we were fully anticipating we were going to have conversations about rent or helping with groceries or deadline for us to be on our own. And that
wouldn't bother you?
No, not at all.
Why?
Because I am an adult. I am able to pay my own way, and it's not fair for my parents to have to support not only me but my husband and our needs.
Yeah, and this is also obviously presuming that some sort of job is going to be had.
Mm-hmm.
One can't just lay around at the house.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, you might go, well, that goes without saying. No, it doesn't. Sometimes it's healthier just to say it.
Yes.
Even if you're not worried about the kid, because let's just say, again, because it's right now about 50% of people are going to experience the boomerang kid.
Mm-hmm.
You might have, let's say, 2 kids. One's very responsible, one's not. You can't only have restrictions on the irresponsible one. You've got to, I think, you got to play fair.
And you do need to have those conversations. I know someone who had an adult child that they just assumed that they would figure things out and assume they would figure out they need to contribute, and they didn't. So it was a long time of, kind of awkwardness, and they were feeling resentful because this person wasn't contributing, but they had never had the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do it. You got to have the conversation. So
Yes.
it's fair with you, Ron?
Yeah. And my kids were all motivated to work. None of them wanted to come back and freeload off of us. They were slightly embarrassed by, anybody ask, oh, where you live? Well, I'm living at home again. Those are not the things that an adult wants to say.
Did you guys have one of these discussions, though, where you sit down with the kids and go, what's going on here and how long is this going to last?
I can't remember specifically, but I'm sure we did. That, the whole reason why they wanted to ask if they could come home would have been the beginning of those conversations.
The second piece of advice from the Wall Street Journal is you should have your boomerang adult child establish a budget so they can meet their monthly living expenses and can figure out what happened before. Obviously, something went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure they have a budget and help them make a budget in order to be successful in the future.
I don't think this is bad, but I would caution you that even though they are living under your roof and you should have boundaries and quote unquote rules, you do need to be mindful of the fact that your roles have changed. Mm-hmm. They are not 15. You cannot lord your will over them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fair game, right, to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, the age range here on the study from Thrivent is up to 35. So your 35-year-old comes and says, "Hey, Mom and Dad, I need a place to stay. Can I come and live with you?" I think you can ask what happened.
Yeah, you can. But I think sitting down and figuring out a budget is very situational. Did they make a huge mistake and we need to figure out how to prevent this from happening again? But there are so many reasons that an adult child might have to move back in. Maybe there was a nasty divorce, their spouse died. The economy is just rough, so maybe they're having to move in through absolutely no fault of their own. There are reasons that people have to move back in.
And I would say it'd be better to invite and offer help rather than demand it.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it seems like they're saying you should expect them to do a budget that you're aware of. And I would almost say, say, hey, if you're interested, I'd be happy to show you our budget and would love to help you if that's something that would benefit you.
Mm-hmm.
Help you build a budget to get yourself back on your feet.
Right.
As opposed to, you will do this, 35-year-old child.
Yeah.
And then finally it says, and I don't know how Ron's going to feel about this, give priority to your retirement. It says, start by reviewing your overall expenses, and once the child had moved out, look at your budget when they weren't there. You want to determine your monthly income surplus. The extra cash should be used to pay down debt, add to your emergency fund, build up your retirement savings again. I mean, they're like, prioritize your retirement as you help your child.
And they make it sound like, well, another person or two back in your household and, whoa, there's $1 million in your spending. It's not that big a deal. They were there before as teenagers. They still took that 30-minute hot shower or whatever it was. Those kind of things. I don't think your expenses go up all that much that you got to freak out about. Oh, no, now I won't be able to retire till I'm 90. Chill out and have a heart.
I think priorities are very misplaced. Like, this is a very American way to look at things. Like,
what do you mean?
The fact that we're prioritizing money. Like, your kid, maybe they made a mistake, maybe some tragedy happened, a job loss. They have said, Mom, Dad, I need help. Maybe they've got kids like, please help us. We don't know what to do. And you're going to say, you can live here, but my retirement comes first.
Or it's at least equal.
Yeah.
Is it equal?
No.
Yeah, I mean, right away, the passage comes to mind of, if you don't care for your own family, you're worse than an unbeliever.
Mm-hmm.
And the heart of generosity should be at the core of a follower of Christ. I talked to a local pastor about how he's even tried to help his elder board understand the church itself must have a heart of generosity, a culture of generosity.
Yeah.
And to me, it does not scream be generous if you've got one of your top priorities as your adult child needs help is maintaining your own financial goals.
Yeah. One case that comes to mind where it might financially affect you is if your child has an addiction problem of some sort, where you might need to be paying for an outsource recovery aid, or even to get them into a treatment center where they stay. That might cost you some money.
Mm-hmm.
But again, is it worth it? Would you rather, sorry, I have to have a retirement, so live on the street, buddy boy. I'm not paying for it.
Yeah,
but there's lines there too.
I mean, each circumstance is so unique. All things being equal, the heart of a believer towards their children, at a minimum, / their enemy, ought to be a heart of generosity, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I think, Daria, you nailed it. The Wall Street Journal here clearly has an American ideological perspective, not a biblical one.
Or even most other countries are very family and community oriented. I can't think of another country on this planet where this article would even exist.
Yeah.
That's true. And, it's something I love about my wife, Sarah, where she's led our family in this aspect, where I've seen her look at the kids multiple times and say, you can always come back here.
Mm-hmm.
This is always a place where you'll be cared for.
And my parents said the same thing.
Now, I felt it, but she's been much more intentional about saying it. And your parents said it to you.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, we were prepared to have to move back in. My brother was still at home at the time, too. They were willing to have both their kids, their son-in-law, and our 2 cats under their roof.
Oh, the cats, that might have drawn the line.
Yeah, it'd be a tough one. But I bet that gave you, even as you're just launching into life with Jimmy, a measure of security.
Yeah, I have always known that they were going to be there for me. There have been other, not moving in, but other rough patches we have hit where I can call my mom and dad and say, we need help. And they're always there, or Jimmy's parents for that matter.
Yeah, and I guess we can't forget, right, as we have adult children, you're going to need their help eventually.
Yeah.
What kind of culture do you want to set?
Right. It's true.
One of being stingy and prioritizing yourself? Well, have fun with that when you're 90.
Yeah. Sorry, Dad, I can't help you because
I'm saving for retirement.
Yeah.
I've got kids now.
Wow. It's 8:03. It's time for Ron's News and today's More Ron moment. And coming up in a few minutes, we're going to get to our latest Advent reading from Ashertah Cuicui. If you're familiar with the book, it's is it Praying the Names of Jesus?
Unwrapping the Names of Jesus.
There it is. Unwrapping the Names of Jesus. If you purchased the book or you're thinking about it, we're going to be going through one of those readings here together in just a few minutes.
Mornings with Brian on Moody Radio Cleveland, WCRF Cleveland, WVMS Sandusky, WVML Millersburg, WVMN Newcastle, WVME Meadville, WVMU Ashtabula, and everywhere with the Moody Radio app or at moodyradio.org/Cleveland.
President-elect Trump is sticking with his plan to levy tariffs against America's trading partners. It's 8:04. I'm Ron Eastwood, Moody Radio News. In an interview with NBC News that aired over the weekend, Trump said heavy tariffs will be imposed against nations like Mexico, Canada, and China. Asked about concerns that tariffs would increase prices for American consumers, Trump said he can't guarantee anything. One person is dead after an officer-involved shooting Saturday night in Richland County. Shelby police say they were serving a warrant on a man at around 11 p.m. at a Mansfield Arby's when the man stabbed an officer in the neck with a knife. When the suspect went after the officer a second time, the officer pulled his gun and shot the man, who later died. And Canton city leaders on Saturday gathered for a ceremony officially renaming Fairhope Nature Reserve as the David R. Doherty Nature Preserve. Doherty served as the city's Ward 6 councilman for more than 25 years, and Canton Parks Director Doug Foles said that Doherty is well deserving of the honor. Sports and weather just around the corner.
Hi, I'm Mark Jobe, president of the Moody Bible Institute. On Bold Steps, my goal is to take you on a path of authenticity in Christ. I've been a pastor for decades in the city of Chicago, and my desire is to bring Bible teaching that is clear, practical, and that pushes people to take bold steps in their walk with God. You can hear Bold Steps weekdays at noon and Sundays at 7 p.m. here on Moody Radio Cleveland.
In sports, the Steelers took down the Browns 27-14. The Cavaliers unfortunately fell to the Heat 122-113. The Blue Jackets grounded the Jets 4-1. And on Saturday, number 3 Penn State lost to top-ranked Oregon 45-37 in the Big Ten championship game. Here's your Moody Radio Cleveland forecast. Rain this afternoon, then a slight chance of rain with patchy drizzle this afternoon. High temperatures in the lower 50s. At last check, we did have some light rain across most our listening area. 50 degrees in Cleveland, 48 in Akron and Canton, 48 in Lorain and Elyria as well.
It's time for your moron moment.
Well, it is the time of year when shipping gifts becomes top of mind. You can ship smarter this year. Visit the website onlineshippingcalculator.com. It compares rates for all available carriers, including UPS, FedEx, and DHL, so you know the best price. They even include the current discount codes, too. Score. And that's your Moron Moment. And you'll find that on our Facebook and Instagram. It's 8:07 with Moody Radio News. I'm Ron Eastwood.
It's Mornings with Brian on Moody.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Happy Monday. You're listening to WCRF and Mornings with Brian. Had a blast with all of you on Thursday evening at Rebecca St. James' Christmas concert. Ron was there, which was a miracle all in of itself. Christmas miracle. And you were there. I met your sister-in-law. Very fun.
And brother-in-law.
Yep. And Dana was there. It was great. People, as soon as you walked in the door, someone yelled, "I love you, Ron Eastwood."
It's true.
Who doesn't love Ron Eastwood?
Right. So thanks to all who came. What a blast. Lauren's out today, and Lauren took us through our Advent reading last week. And if you aren't familiar with this, we've got a book from Moody Publishers we're taking you through. Just once a week, we're doing an Advent reading, encouraging you to consider practicing the Advent season. Daria graciously agreed to take us through today's reading.
Yeah, so this is Unwrapping the Names of Jesus from Ashertah Cuicui. We actually had her on with us a couple weeks ago. She's wonderful. We love her. So today's reading is called Jesus is the Light of the World. Opens with John 1:9. The true light that gives to everyone was coming into the world. Throughout Scripture, darkness often represents evil and falsehood, while light represents goodness, truth, and holiness. We naturally fill our homes with light and do our best to avoid dark places where any danger may linger in the shadows. Therefore, it comes as no surprise that Jesus assumes this title, "I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." That's John 8:12. But there is more to that statement than we may first realize. Jesus illuminates our lives with his brilliance, shining into every nook and cranny. Even the revelation of hidden sin is a gift, like the fortunate early diagnosis of a deadly cancer. He reveals not only our sins, but also all that is beautiful surrounding us. He awakens our souls to see the history of redemption and the wonderful works of God all around us. As David says, "In your light, we see light." Psalm 36:9. Those who believe in Jesus will go to be with him. At death, those separated from him will enter darkness and gloom, but we will live in everlasting joy and light with Jesus. This truth gives hope to us because no matter how gloomy our lives may be this side of eternity, we know that our future destination is in the kingdom of light, where there will be no night, no darkness, no tears, and no distress. As Jesus is the light of the world, so he sends us as lights into the world to illuminate our surroundings with his love and life. Just as the moon reflects the sun's light, so we also reflect Jesus' light, loving our families and our neighbors, serving our church and community with spiritual gifts, and sharing truth and love in a bleak world. Jesus, the light of the world, has placed us in a particular time and place in history, in the lives of specific people within a specific place to shine brightly for him, holding forth the word of life in a million different little ways. That's taken from Philippians 2:14 through 16. We carry this light with us, and those who see it cannot help but be attracted to the light. The true light desires to give light to everyone. And what's more amazing, he wants to see us, his people, spread that light.
Beautiful. Again, Ashertah Cuicui was a local author and was on the show to chat about this. I thought of her right away when you were reading this. Like, she's somebody, when you encounter her, she carries the light of Christ with her.
Absolutely.
You agree with that?
I don't even really know her. I just have spoken to her on the phone, and you can just hear Jesus over the phone line.
Yeah, and that's where I think this ought to be a moment of pause for all of us to examine, how much are we reflective of the light of Christ in our own lives? Especially in the last year with the grossness of American politics, how horrible social media has become. I mean, would someone dare to even ask themselves today, how much have I been a light for Christ and to the people around me?
And what have I been reflecting instead?
Oof, that's even harder, right?
Yeah, we don't like that one.
Because it'd be easier to just go, yeah, I've been kind of nasty. Anyway, back to the light of Jesus. No, really examine what is it that's causing you to be a purveyor of darkness and maybe cynicism and anger. And how do you change that? Because really, it is that simple. We ought to be people who, when someone hangs out with us, they go, what is it about that? There's a light around that person, a lightness, a joy.
And yet, unfortunately, I think the number of people in our lives that we encounter like that are small.
Very small. But like Ashertah pointed out, it shouldn't be that way.
No.
We're all supposed to carry the light of Christ with us everywhere.
Yeah.
Really thought-provoking. And Daria, you're a wonderful reader.
Well, thank you.
I'm glad you read that, not me. And for those who want it, someone was asking for the name of the book again. Can you take us through that real quick?
Yeah, it's called Unwrapping the Names of Jesus. So it's your traditional full Advent devotional. Every day takes you through a different name that Jesus has ascribed to himself, ties it back to Christmas and his coming in the world. Unwrapping the Names of Jesus by Ashertah Cuicui, and her last name is spelled Ciuciu.
Yeah, again, that's Ciuciu, okay? So feel free to grab it. We'll do another reading next week, but we encourage you to take that time of self-reflection as we approach the celebration of Jesus' birth. It's 8:17. We're up against a break, but when we come back, we're going to take a little bit of a look at Gen Z and the future of the church.
The following is not an actor, but a real-life story from Trinity Debt Management.
My debt problem started probably about 2016. I needed my life to change financially. I called Trinity and I ended up joining based on high credit card bills and high interest rate. And my counselor at Trinity has been great, and Trinity has been helping me to get on the right path of paying off these credit card bills, bringing down the interest rate. They have consolidated my bills into one low monthly payment. And now I am finally getting out of credit card debt. So I just want to say thank you, Trinity, for showing me a better and greater path.
If you're in debt and you need help, call Trinity at 1-800-659-9838.
My name is Sharon, and soon I will be debt-free for keeps.
1-800-659-9838.
Today, there is a disciple-making church planting movement that's taken root in 40 countries around the world. It's called the Timothy Initiative, and its mission is to see a healthy church planted in every village, everywhere. Since 2007, over 200,000 churches have been planted through the work of the Timothy Initiative, but there's more work to be done. Take your place in the Timothy Initiative. Go to ttiglobal.org.
May God bless your life with love and joy this holiday season. Merry Christmas from your friends at Mornings with Brian and Moody Radio Cleveland.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Gen Z and the future of the church. We're chatting about that in just a moment. Good morning. It's 8:23 on WCRF, Moody Radio, Cleveland. Glad to be back on a Monday. Lauren's out. She's back tomorrow, but Daria's back.
Yay!
Woo!
Good to be back.
We missed you.
I missed you guys too.
No, you didn't, liar.
No, I was excited to come back because as great as vacation is, I like routine. I like having things to do. I did a lot of like relaxing and doing nothing, which is fabulous, but eventually that has to come to an end.
What I was hoping to hear was, I missed you and Ron so much specifically that I was anxious to come back just to see you again.
No, it's like a collective you. There's Alan and Lauren and Josh. I missed everybody.
We had a great time at the concert. We missed you, but I know you're having lots of fun. Rebecca St. James last week, Thursday night. In fact, the person who yelled out first, "I love you, Ron Eastwood."
Yeah.
Just texted in all caps to say, "I love you, Ron Eastwood." Oh. Hazel, we love you back, sister.
I'm blushing.
Are you? A little bit. You are, yeah. People love you, Ron Eastwood.
She also speaks highly of Lauren. She says Lauren is super organized and handled everything calmly and thoroughly. And to that we say yes.
Yeah, people occasionally ask me questions.
Yeah, no, ask Lauren.
Like, people figured out quickly. And you can just tell, just reading the room, look around. Who's running the place?
Lauren.
Yeah.
Brian, this is not a joke. Brian does not know what's on his own calendar. Lauren has to tell him.
Yeah, I mean, my wife would have the same thing to tell you. Like, it's been taken years for me to get good at just knowing what's happening in my own life. Just personal life. Okay, so we're grateful for Lauren. Can't wait to talk to her more tomorrow. And we have a couple of gifts we received from you that we're going to open tomorrow.
Aww.
Anonymous stopped by and gave a gift for the team, and then somebody at the event gave a gift for the team to Lauren. So,
yay, Christmas.
We'll chat about that tomorrow. And by the way, for those who don't know, what's the address again, Ron, if you have a gift to drop off? Not that we're expecting it, but you never know.
9756 Bar Road in Brecksville, Ohio, 44141. If you happen to be driving by.
Or happen to have ordered any sort of goodies or food.
If you were making Christmas cookies and thought, oops, I made too many, we'll take some off your hands.
Yes, we will. One of the unique aspects of our show is that we represent 4 generations, okay? Ron's Boomer. I'm barely an Xer, but technically an Xer. And then you got Lauren's our millennial. And Daria, even though she just turned 27, she's still Gen Z.
I'm an old Gen Z.
It says it's people born after 1996.
Mm-hmm.
What year were you born?
97.
Oh, gosh, that hurts.
That's the year you graduated high school, right?
Thanks, Daria.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it was.
And that's funny because Brian was born the year I graduated from high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Look at us all. So it does hurt when you hear that a little bit. You've gotten over it over the years? I need a minute here. Okay. For now, that'll have to do. But so you're Gen Z, thoroughly. And you all are going to shape the future of the church, no question. Every generation ultimately comes up. Mm-hmm. But check this out. There's statistically more Gen Z nuns. They've subscribed to no religious faith. There's statistically more Gen Z nuns than there are Gen Z Christians.
I'm not at all surprised.
I bet Ron's a little surprised. If you take just Gen Z, majority, not Christian. In America.
The trend has been going that way for so long that I guess I'm not really surprised.
Yeah, Gen Z is very into like spiritualism and mysticism, not so much any sort of organized religion.
Well, and as startling as that is, of course, the writers at relevant magazines say, this church has always been slow to adapt to the expectations of new generations. We don't have the luxury of being slow to adapt now. If we don't figure out how to adapt in a way that's going to reach Gen Z, the church in America is in deep trouble. Mm-hmm. You think they're right?
Yeah. You can't have a whole gap, a whole generation, which spans about 20 years, where you have no representation. That is very, very bad for the future of the church in terms of families that are being raised in the church, because Gen Z is starting to have families, and so they are not in church. Their kids are not in church. We have an aging pastorate, so we don't have Gen Z pastors coming up to replace them. It's a very big problem.
Well, it used to be, eventually they'll come around, though. When they get to a certain age, they're going to want to just go back to church, so we'll just wait for them.
That is not how it works. I am not discrediting the power of God. Sometimes God just grabs hold of people and there is no groundwork laid and he just saves them. That does happen. But we can't discount our own responsibility to start laying foundations and and plant seeds and allow God to water them. Generally speaking, people are not just going to wake up one day and go, you know what, I think I'd like to go to church. They've done nothing for me, not invested in me. They've disparaged me and said how horrible and selfish I am. But I think I'm going to start going there.
So with that in mind, the article from Relevant Magazine I have in front of me is saying we've got to adapt quickly. So what do we adapt to? Well, they give some distinctives. Let's see what we think of this. The first one they say is Gen Z is the most diverse generation in history, whether it's racially, theologically, sexually, all those types of things. And I'm not saying we agree with all of the sexuality part of it.
But it's a fact.
But it's a fact, yes. So Gen Z is the most diverse in history. They have connections and their life is filled with diversity.
Mm-hmm.
They expect to see that diversity reflected in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So if your church is not diverse, then what? You think it's going to be less attractive to Gen Z?
I think so.
Not just racially. This is the stuff old people like me have to figure out. It's not just racial diversity we're talking about here.
No, you need economic diversity. Typically, people, they'll go to the church in their neighborhood, which has a certain, financial influence. So you need people from all walks of life. And it needs to be welcoming to people who the church generally, they're like, oh, we love them. But when they come into our doors, we're like, we're not sure what to do with them. And we're not sure we want them here because they're not good influences on our children.
But Gen Z would expect us to have at least a welcoming environment where you would see people on the fringes of where Christians would be accepting, feeling like they could show up.
Yes.
Now,
because a vast portion of Gen Z, they are in the LGBTQ community. If you want this to be a welcoming space to them, you need it to be a welcoming space to them, and that includes all members of Gen Z.
Now, you're not saying change your theology.
No, absolutely not. I am saying that people that have other sexual preferences need to feel like they can come into your space and be welcome.
And see, this is a tough one for older folks to understand because what they hear you say is, you're asking me to change my theology.
No, I'm asking you to have fellowship with people. So some people have sins that are more visible.
Yep.
You are fellowshipping every week with people who are alcoholics, with people who are not treating their spouse well, who are lying. You don't know it, though.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to be as welcoming to other people who have more visible sins, just as you are to these people whose sins you don't know about.
Amen.
And I think that's a real difficult thing for the church to grasp and to figure out what the recipe is for that. I think we want to lead with the rules, right?
Right.
And
if you're good enough, you can come to our church and become a Christian.
Which is a theological lie.
Exactly.
I mean, we're supposed to be a place that's welcoming to sinners, right? Because that's what Jesus did. So you have to have an environment where, yes, you have theological boundaries, but you're a place where somebody who may be questioning their gender identity would feel perfectly safe coming in.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think most churches in America are that.
Do you agree with the writer that that's a pretty key aspect of the future of the church?
I do, because you have a whole generation that's been lost. And how are you going to help them find their way if you're not encouraging them to come into your building by saying, this is a safe place and we love you no matter what you've done?
It's that odd phrase, right? We often expect people to behave before they believe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You can't be surprised when non-Christians behave like non-Christians. And a large portion of Gen Z, they're not Christian and they're behaving in a way that you might be tempted to turn your nose up at. But you have to remember how the environment that they were raised in. It is so vastly different than how any other generation in history has been raised. You cannot blame them, and it is not their fault.
Well, and I think the harder one too is you have to understand that baby Christians are going to act like baby Christians.
Mm-hmm. And seasoned Christians are also going to act like baby Christians from time to time.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it might be more obvious in the baby Christian they're at the very early stages of conforming their life to Christ. So they'll have a lot in their life that isn't conformed to Christ.
Mm-hmm.
And what they need is discipleship, not judgment.
Right.
Boy, we have a lot to go on that.
Mm-hmm.
And as the writer says, here's the scary part again. I don't know that we have the luxury of time to slowly adapt to this.
We don't. So I'm the upper end of Gen Z. I'm pushing 30. Statistically speaking, the choices a person has made by the time they're like 17, I think, are likely the choices they will continue to make for the rest of their life.
Well, we have to keep talking about this. Relevant Magazine has some other things about how Gen Z will shape the future of the church and how we need to adapt, in their opinion at least. We'll share a few more of those things together in just a few.
This is FEBC Today with Ed Cannon, the president of the Far East Broadcasting Company. Ed, a listener in Korea writes to us and says,
one of my dear friends was once heavily involved in shamanism. She hated Christianity because she believed her life took a bad turn after she was prayed over by a pastor years ago. When I talked to your program director about contacting her, I asked him to begin slowly with her as I was afraid her heart wouldn't be ready for the entire salvation message right away. But when the pastor called her and talked to her about Jesus, she miraculously responded right away and even gladly accepted the Lord. She later contacted me and told me she's going to live by God's words and wants to walk in His path. And she doesn't want to go back to shamanism. What a miracle.
It is a miracle. And Paul writes in Thessalonians that the gospel comes not only in word, but with great power. No matter what the pastor did or any clever tricks he might have devised to communicate to this young woman, it's the power of Christ's words that transform people even from addiction to things like shamanism. It's no surprise to us that this testimony comes this way. We have the privilege of hearing these all the time with FEBC's broadcasts across the globe. Don't forget that as you speak to your friends and relatives this season, there is great power in the gospel.
I was thinking the same thing. This Christmas season gives us plenty of opportunity to talk about Christ. Merry Christmas from us. Join us online at the Far East Broadcasting Company's website, febc.org. That's febc.org.
Hey, my name is Brant Hansen, and if you want to see something incredibly encouraging, miraculous even, go to cure.org/Moody. Go look at these before and after photos of kids who have been healed in the name of Jesus at Cure International children's hospitals around the world. Probably the best website in the world. And I'm not kidding, because it shows what God is doing. He's still at work through us. He's healing. It's so worth your time. Just look. It's so good. Cure.org/.
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
WCRF Mornings with Brian here. We're talking about Gen Z and the future of the church. If you're just tuning in, thanks to everybody who showed up at the Rebecca St. James concert Thursday night. It was just a blast. We had so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
And also, by the way, save the date. Our Walkworthy Men's Conference. We have a date for it. Now, can't buy tickets yet.
Right.
But it's Saturday, March 1st. Saturday, March 1st, Walkworthy Men's Conference. Mark your calendar and then listen in the next couple of days / weeks. We will announce how to get your tickets this year and who the speakers are, okay? Again, Saturday, March 1st, Walkworthy Men's Conference. Save the date. All right, so if you're just tuning in, we talked about how our team is unique and that we represent 4 different generations. Lauren's out today. Thankfully, Daria is here, though, because we're talking about Gen Z today. And we're talking about various aspects of why it's so important that we pay attention to Gen Z and adapt to their preferences, because specifically their generation, there are more non-Christians than Christians. The future of the church in America depends on our willingness to melt them into our church culture in a way where they feel valued and seen and have their preferences met. We don't like doing that as a church. We like the carpet the way it's been. We like things we've always done it, but we have to get over that.
But we've made some major changes. We've gone from, only a piano or organ or maybe both to most churches now have some sort of a band leading their worship singing. And that was a bit of a struggle, but we've survived that.
So, Daria, I'm anxious to get your thoughts on this. The next aspect of what makes them different, Gen Z, they claim in Relevant Magazine they're a deeply independent generation who sees financial security as more important as a life goal than millennials did. Like millennials were more about just search for your dreams and money will follow. You guys are like, I don't know about that.
I mean, I can't speak for millennials, but to some extent it's true just because of how they were raised. Some of my earliest memories are my parents concerned about gas prices. The economy has just taken some really sharp turns in our lifetimes, and it has really shaped us.
And I guess on top of that, Dr. James Emery White, in his book about Gen Z, said their goal is not simply economic security. They want to make a difference in people's lives. So 70% of Gen Z want to orient their lives towards making a difference in the world.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to make a difference tangibly in the world.
Yeah, and I think where the frustration with church comes is this is a frustration I have personally had, is I don't see our church doing enough good. They might be doing good, but we're not talking about it. We're not talking about ways that the congregation can get involved. Overseas missions are great, don't get me wrong, but I personally would like to see more community-oriented missions. So I think there's things that a lot of churches can be doing better.
And I'm glad you went there, because for a lot of people, they'd be like, yeah, we're doing lots of good. Look at all the missionaries we support. Not that you don't care about missionaries, but I think what you're implying is Gen Z cares more about involvement in your own community making a difference.
Mm-hmm. And you might be doing stuff that's great. You need to talk about it and give people the opportunity to join.
Well, and this is where we talked earlier this morning about that terrible situation in New York of the head of a healthcare organization was assassinated and such. But it pointed to some of the struggles financially people have with insurance.
Mm-hmm.
Where to me, Gen Z would be happier, correct me if I'm wrong, paying down medical debt of people in the community than it would supporting an overseas missionary.
Yeah, we can get behind something like that. The problem is Gen Z doesn't have a lot of money, so
they need the help.
We're the one. Yes, we're the ones that need the help. But also, I think a lot of us would like to get involved in service projects because you don't need money to participate in those.
Yeah, and I don't know how well every church is doing with that.
Right.
I mean, in my experience culturally, Sarah and I belong to an African-American church in the south side of Chicago for a number of years. Our experience also many years, clearly, because I'm white, in white evangelicalism. Our black church cared way more about caring for the local community than our white church.
Mm-hmm.
It was just ingrained in African-American culture that you care for your community.
Mm-hmm.
And stereotypically, the African-American church is going to be in a poorer neighborhood that has more physical needs, and they're able to, will go to the widow's house and, do yard work and clean up and fix up her landscaping for her, or, the single moms fix her car up so it'll run good. Things like that, where white churches tend to be in a little more affluent areas where, well, we got the money, we'll fix our own car.
Well, yeah, and again, for much of American history, the African-American church was the only source of help for African-Americans.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody else was going to help out.
Yeah, even the government wasn't helping.
That's right. So we can learn a lot from our neighbors in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think you're right. If we reinvigorate our willingness to engage in our local community, our city and our county as a church, it might make a difference bringing in Gen Z.
I think so.
It doesn't have to be money, you're saying.
It doesn't, because Gen Z doesn't have any.
That's true. Something else, there's a serious problem for the church in general where 9 out of 10 Americans see the church as too judgmental. Nearly as many say it's hypocritical. 70% of Americans say the church is insensitive to others, and a third say the American church is characterized by moral failures in leadership. Catch that again. A third of Americans say the American church is characterized by moral failures in leadership. And this is bothering Gen Z big time.
Yeah, that goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, where there are certain people we don't like to have in the church because they have very visible sins that make us uncomfortable, and, we can't have the kids see this, but they need Jesus too. And they need to feel safe and welcome in our churches so that they can, learn what he wants their life to look like. But I'm so glad you brought up the next point, because with the internet, scandals are just so visible and they go viral. The church leadership has got to weed out these pastors that are they know they're there. Okay, we have seen time and time again that church leadership knows these horrible men are holding positions of authority and abusing people with their power. They've got to do something about it, because it has left a black mark on the church, and Gen Z has said, I want nothing to do with that organization or their God.
It's a huge problem. Yeah, and your passion comes through on that, I think, and your generation agrees. When you look at a scale 1 to 10 for trust, I don't know where they get this. Oh, no, it came from the Springtide Research Institute, okay? Scale 1 out of 10 for trust, 10 being like I trust 100%, 0 being no trust at all. Gen Z gives the church a 4.9 out of 10 for trust. Not even a halfway decent score.
Yeah.
Not even a passing grade. Not close to a passing grade. It's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying accountability is the way to fix that?
I don't know what the problem is, but we have widespread corruption. And, it's across denominations. It's across races. I don't know what the solution is, but the leaders of these denominations and organizations and churches need to say, we have a problem and we're going to fix it, because eventually stuff is going to come to light and it's going to continue to damage the message of the gospel.
Yes.
I was just talking to one of my kids about this in general this weekend. We were driving somewhere chatting about it. And I think we as Christians, we either lean too heavy on the side of justice or too heavy on the side of mercy. And as a church, I think we're far too quick to extend dramatic levels of mercy to our own.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And this child of mine was like, well, wait, what do you mean? And here's my thought, right? We certainly ought to work towards personal reconciliation, but we should stop removing the consequences of sin.
Right.
Yeah. We talked in depth about a pastor at a church in Texas where it came out that he had some deep scandal involving a minor. And I heard from just various online spaces, as well as from people that I personally know, oh, well, it was a long time ago. The problem is not when it happened. The problem is that, one, it happened, and two, he was clearly unrepentant because he had covered it up for decades.
Yes.
This attitude, now apparently it's not just within like the authority of the church, it's within the walls of the church. This attitude of we're fine with certain sins if they are sorry enough or if it happened within a certain time frame, it's got to change. And we're not saying there's no forgiveness for sins, because, we should forgive as Jesus forgave, but there still need to be consequences. We can't have someone who's a known sexual predator heading up a church.
A couple of years ago, we talked about a church in Indiana where one of the congregants was repeatedly sexually abused by the pastor as she grew up. The pastor announced it from the pulpit, confessed it, got a standing ovation for the confession. Again, these are people's hearts who are in the right place, as in we need to forgive someone and honor someone when they in some way confess. But
Right.
the proper response should have been outrage and calling the police.
And supporting the victim.
And supporting the victim who was in the room.
Right. You would say, Pastor, we appreciate that, and
Thank
we
you
will
for
give
telling
you
us.
all the support while we take you down to the police station where you can make a similar confession.
That's right.
And you can start a prison ministry.
Yes.
You know, Pastor Scott did. He didn't have to commit crimes to
That's
start
right.
his.
And again, this is why you can at the same time allow for justice and consequence of sin to take place while you offer mercy and reconciliation.
Mhm.
Those can happen simultaneously. And we're terrible at that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're watching the Southern Baptist Convention. They can't even figure out how to make the committee work who's in charge of investigating and coming up with a new plan. And if you want to reach Gen Z, you got to figure it out. There's one more aspect we'll peek at together as a team, as Relevant Magazine has been chatting about, how important it is we adjust to make sure Gen Z feels welcome in the church, lest the church totally fall apart.
Moody Radio is thankful for support from listeners and businesses like Deerfield Ag Services. They help in adaptation of new technologies and techniques of farm and business management. More information about Deerfield Ag and how they can help is at deerfieldagservices.com.
This is Wayne Shepherd for the Far East Broadcasting Company. It's easy to take Christian radio for granted here, but there are many places around the world where people have never heard the gospel in their own language. That's why Moody Radio partners with FEBC, the Far East Broadcasting Company, to bring gospel broadcasts to those living in spiritually dark places. But the job is not yet complete. There are still over 3 billion people around the world who have little or no access to the good news of Jesus Christ. Many may live their entire lives never hearing about Jesus, not even once. That's why FEBC is focused relentlessly on reaching the unreached and broadcast the gospel in over 150 languages. In faith, you can join us in reaching those billions of people so they will have the opportunity to know that Jesus Christ died on the cross for all of us and will forgive our sins. Learn more at febc.org. That's febc.org.
Wishing you and your loved ones a blessed Christmas season. From your friends at Mornings with Brian and Moody Radio Cleveland.
Good morning. This is WCRF. We're chatting about the future of the church and Gen Z. For those not familiar, Gen Z are the people born after 1996. I don't have all the ranges in front of me, but we all have the internet, so
I
you
think
can
it's
check
like
that out.
2011 or 2013, roughly. Could be. I'm off, but it's somewhere in there.
So generally speaking, birth years between 96 and that.
Somewhere in the early 20-teens.
And we've chatted through a number of aspects of the church here. So far, Daria is thinking, it seems to me, that Relevant Magazine's getting it pretty good here
I think so.
in terms of what has to happen. You missed a bunch. You can go check it out. But here's something else I think pretty interesting. They're called, according to a Cigna study in 2018, the loneliest generation.
Mm-hmm.
You agree?
Yeah.
You're laughing.
Because we're all on our phones.
Right.
We don't go talk to anybody.
That beyond the fact that the pandemic has hit everybody, but it's
Yeah.
like your generation is the loneliest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So because of all we discussed before about distrust of institutions and the church struggling with holding ourselves accountable and such, it says this: the lack of connection can't be met by a brand, a corporation, or even an institution.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we think, oh, Gen Z, you're lonely, come here to the church corporately.
Mm-hmm.
You're missing it completely.
Yeah, you need opportunities for people to have genuine fellowship, not just your hour and a half on Sunday. Something else that our friend Dr. Gersovich is doing a great job, which is mental health in the church. A lot of Gen Zers have pretty bad social anxiety. It's learned in part from the pandemic, but also just having screens in front of us from a very young age. We don't know how to be social. So new social activities are very nerve-wracking for a lot of Gen Zers. We talked a couple months back about how nervous they are to talk on the phone. They have to write themselves scripts. They're so nervous to have conversations with people. So I'm not sure what the solution is to that, but it's just something to be aware of.
Mm-hmm. Well, the writer proposed a solution. I'm curious to know your thoughts on this. It says that since the church in general probably wouldn't be the way to approach a billboard, come to our church.
Mm-hmm.
They don't trust institutions.
No.
So the church should start empowering their own Gen Z members in their own pews to build relationships with their peers. Like create a scenario where you're training, maybe uplifting, supporting, creating a scenario in which Gen Z people in your church already can do some like one-on-one or small group discipleship of their own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good.
You like that?
I do.
I don't know quite how that looks, though. Is that just providing a space? I don't get it.
I think there's maybe a bit of education because we are very young and we've had it, bestowed upon us by our elders that you are very young and you know nothing. So I think there's an element of just empowering us, educating us, like teaching us how to present the gospel, making sure we have a full understanding so that we can talk to people and hopefully answer some questions and just have more confidence to have those harder conversations with our own.
Yeah, we struggle, I think, as a church to empower younger people.
Yeah.
And I think in this case, it's just, I don't know, I guess ask them.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you're in Gen Z. How can we support you in reaching your peers?
Yeah. I would appreciate some sort of some class, like a gospel refresher, like here are the main points, like I love Dr. Rydelnik's like elevator gospel pitch, stuff like that would be, I think, fantastic tools for us to have in addition to just go be friends with people and let things come up and let them see Jesus in you.
I wonder even offering some like relevant free classes of some sort would help.
I would take a class. I would like something like that, like a class that is for Gen Z, maybe taught by millennials or Gen Xers because we're better able to relate to those generations. Someone who is going to help us reach our own generation and empower us and give us the tools that we need and give us confidence in our own knowledge.
Well, you heard it from Daria. She's Gen Z. And powerful piece from Relevant Magazine, not hard to find. It's called How Gen Z is Shaping the Future of the Church. You're listening to WCRF. Here's some Christmas music before we sign off on Mornings with
Mornings with Brian. Moody Radio Cleveland. 103.3 at 6 to 9 a.m.
Merry Christmas from all of us here at WCRF and Mornings with Brian. That was Mac Powell.
Mm-hmm.
We will be back tomorrow, full team, as Lauren's back with us. And we'll continue celebrating Daria's reaching adulthood. 27. The whole show's changed now. 4 adults.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. It's nice not having a kid around here.
Yeah, sorry for anything I said when I was younger.